In our previous session, in verse 12 of chapter 7, taught us that the states arising through sattva, rajas and tamas depend upon the divinity. Yet, the divine Bhagavān is not controlled or limited by any of these states within the Prakriti. Today's verse 13 raises the next question. If the gunas themselves depend on Bhagavān, the divine, why do we not recognize Bhagavān through the gunas? Krishna, the Master's answer is direct. Our experience is so thoroughly shaped by the gunas that we mistake the conditioned way we see reality for the whole of actual reality. Let us begin with the invocation prayer. Om Asmadgurubhyo Namaha. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahaihi Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahaihi. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. त्रिभिर्गुणमयैर्भावैः एभिः सर्वमिदं जगत् मोहितं नाभिजानाति मामेभ्यः परमव्ययम् त्रिभिर्गुणमयैर्भावैः एभिः सर्वमिदं जगत् मोहितं नाभिजानाति मामेभ्यः परमव्ययम्. Master Krishna explains that the world is deluded by changing states of formed through the three gunas. The gunas don't merely influence our moods. They affect what we notice, how we interpret an event, and what we feel drawn to pursue or avoid. This is why the word lens is useful. A lens does not necessarily invent the object before us, but it can color, enlarge, reduce, or distort how that object appears. Under sattva, the mind may become clear, thoughtful, and receptive. This is helpful. But even sattva becomes binding when we become attached to being knowledgeable, pure, peaceful, or unquestionably correct. Under rajas, the mind sees urgency, competition, and unfinished work everywhere. Under tamas, the same mind may see difficulty, pointlessness, or reasons to postpone an action. The deeper problem is moha, delusion. Absorbed in the conditioned field, we fail to recognize the divine. We fail to recognize the divine, the Bhagavān, whom the Master Krishna describes as beyond the gunas and imperishable. He is not one more changing experience within the field. He is the unchanging reality upon whom the field itself depends. Let's take an example. Imagine encountering the same difficult task on 3 mornings. In a relatively sattvic condition, you think this needs attention. Let me understand it carefully and handle it. Under strong rajas, I must finish this immediately. Why is nobody responding? I need to fix everything now. Under tamas, this is too much. It probably does not matter. I will deal with it later. The task has not necessarily changed. The lens has. The practical lesson is not to distrust every thought. It is to stop treating the first interpretation as complete truth. Use 4 steps. First, pause before concluding. Create a small space between the mental reaction and the action. Second, recognize the tendency. Is clarity becoming attachment to being right? Is activity becoming restlessness? Is resistance becoming avoidance? Third, examine what duty requires. Ask, what does this situation actually require from me now? Fourth, act and offer the result. Perform the appropriate duty without demanding that the outcome confirm your interpretation, competence, or worth. This avoids 2 mistakes. The first is automatically obeying the present state. The second is over-diagnosing ourselves and others as sattvic, rajasic, or tamasic. The useful question is not what percent of each guna is operating. The useful question is not what percentage of each guna is operating. The useful question is what tendency is operating now and what response does dharma require. So the reminder is examine the lens. Don't mistake it for the whole reality. A state can make its interpretation feel completely true, even when it reveals only part of the situation. Hope we may learn to examine our conclusions, perform our duties with steadiness, and remember the divine beyond the changing field of experience. Pause before concluding. Recognize the tendency. Examine what duty requires. Act and offer the result. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om Swadhyaya Pravachanabhyam Na Pramaditavyam Om Tat Sat.